everyone, welcome to Ask IITians. How are you all? I hope you all are good. You all are doing very well. What the thing, student, that today we are going to start a new chapter that is the water. Okay, so if I ask you that what is water, so everyone is going to say a one very common answer that, ma'am, water is something that is the necessity of each and every living being. That we are not talking about only human beings, but as well as for the animals and for the plants. Exactly. So that's how we know this thing that water is very precious for us, and water is the basic necessity of each and every living being who is existing on the earth. Exactly. So that's why, student, today we are going to start our new chapter that is water. And in this chapter, we are going to see some of the important topics or important things related to the water. Fine. So before starting our session, I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Arushi Sharma and I'm going to teach you this chapter that is water. Fine. So now starting with our chapter. So students, what the thing is that we are going to cover up some of the topics in this session. So you can see here that these all are the topics which we are going to cover up in this session. So that means introduction, what is the water, or I'll tell you something different points about the water as well. Uses of water. If I start asking you that what are the uses of water, so maybe each and every student is having some different point, because water is used up like we can say that the usage of water is the next level. Like we use water in our daily life at every point, whatever we are doing. If we need water only. Exactly. So that's how we are going to find out what are the uses of water. Then we'll see what are the reasons of the water shortage. That, student, you know this thing that it is very, you can say, very trendy topic in nowadays, that water shortage is a big problem for us. Why? Because what happened that, yes, we are having the abundant amount of the water on the earth, but it's just that the fresh water or the drinking water, we can say that the water which we use for our domestic needs or for our human needs, so that's how, student, that amount of water is getting reduced day by day. So we'll see that what are the reasons for the shortage of water cycle, that how the water cycle works, and all these are the steps, or you can say that these processes which are involved in the water cycle. Okay, so don't worry, this is very easy, and we are going to start with chapter this all of these topic, and they're very easy. Don't worry about, because it's a very easy chapter. Fine. Now let's start with the chapter. Okay, so I can see one picture here. So what you can observe here, that the like you can see such a small girl is here and she's watering the plant. You can observe like how she's so cute and she's watering the plant. So what you can think about looking at this picture? That what you think? So, student, as we have already discussed this thing, or like I have told you, that the water is the necessity of each and everyone, like whether they are plants, whether they are animals. So you can see here that this girl is watering the plants, and after watering, you can see that the that flowers are so beautiful, and if the flowers are beautiful, you will find out that the whole garden was looking so beautiful. Exactly. So we can imagine this thing. So that's a, student, water is used up at very different points, or we can say that at every point water is used. And you can say that like she is watering the plant, and you can see that two cats are sitting here, and such a beautiful environment it is. Exactly. That means, students, what the thing is that if the usage of water is so, you can say, is so high, or we need water so much, that even though, like, if water is not there, so our environment is going to be very dull. Like right now it is looking very beautiful, but if the water is going to be removed from our life, so that's how we can imagine that how we are going to survive. Fine. So now we are going to talk about all of these things in this chapter. Okay, so now starting with the introduction of the water. So, okay, what happened that when we talk about water, so generally people say, yes, we need water. I want one glass of water, or I want to drink water. We know this thing that, yes, water could be cold, like it could be cool, as well as it could be hot by boiling it. Exactly. So what happened, like generally in the summer season and the winter season, so in summer season we require cool water, but in this winter season, some people always consume hot water because the weather is very cold. So that's how, student, we are going to see some different points about the water. We know such thing that, okay, water we are getting from lakes, rivers, oceans, ocean, sea. So I'm not talking about from where you are getting the water. I'm talking about that water is cool and hot at both the, like you can take both the things for the water. But student, what the thing is, if you see in this picture, so you can see that three states I have written, like solid, liquid and gas. So in this case, you can see that the water which is present in the glass, so it is present in the form of the liquid. Okay, and here this water is present into the form of the vapors. And here what you can see that in the solid form, water is present into the form of the ice. So that means student that water can exist into the three states, that is the solid, liquid and gases. And guess what student, that it is very interesting to see that water can be converted from liquid to gases, or the vapors to the liquid, or to liquid to ice, or ice to liquid. That means all of these three states of the waters are convertible into each other. Okay, how? For example, student, if you're having ice in your freezer, okay, and if you take out for some time, so what will happen, student, that the melting will take place. So what will happen when the melting will take place? So that ice is going to be converted into the water, that is the liquid water, we can say. Okay, and when you start boiling this water, so what will happen, that there is a formation of the vapors. If you have noticed this thing, like if you are taking water in a pan and you are boiling it, so after some time you will see that there are the formation of the vapors, and this process is called as the vaporization process. Formation of the vapors, this is called as the vaporization process. So you can see student, by so ice to water, water to vapor. So what we can see that when the temperature is increasing, exactly like ice, in the freezer the temperature is low, but when you take out the ice into the surrounding, so in the surrounding the temperature is high as compared to the freezer temperature, and when you start boiling it again, you are increasing the temperature. So this is the condition when you are heating the water, or temperature is increased. But if you reverse this process, like when you cool down, like at this point when you are cooling the vapors, so it is converting into the water again, so that is called as the condensation process. And when you freeze the water again, so it is converting into the ice, and this process is called as the freezing process. So that's how student, we have observed this thing, that the water can exist in three states of matter, or we can say that into the three physical state, that is the solid, liquid and gases. And these three states are interconvertible in each other. By heating or by cooling, you can convert them easily. Exactly, student. But the thing is that student, that it is very important to notice that whether the ice is converting into the water, or the water is converting into the vapors, but the thing is that we know this thing, that the chemical formula of the water is H2O only. Exactly, that is the H2O only. So when it is H2O, so we know this thing, that whether it is the ice, or whether it is in the liquid form, or whether it is in the vapor form, so the chemical formula of the water is going to be same. It is not going to be changed at any condition. Got my point? So we are saying about the H2O, that means whether the water is present in the ice form, whether it is present in the liquid form or in the vapor form, the chemical formula of the water is not going to be changed. It will remain as H2O only. What? H2O. That means H2O in ice, H2O in water, and H2O in vapors as well. So that is the thing about the student. We are talking about the water, that water exists in the same chemical formula in all of these three states, but it's just that you can convert the physical state by boiling or by cooling it. Fine. So that's the main point I want to tell you. And what you have to remember is that what process is going on. Like from ice to water, it is getting melting. Water to vapors, it is vaporization. Vapors to water, it is condensation. Water to ice, it is freezing, because all of these process student is going to use up in the water cycle. So it is very important for you to learn all of these process, or to understand all of these process very carefully. Okay, now moving towards the another topic. Oh, so the another topic is the uses of water. Uses of water. Like if I ask you what could be the uses of water, you'll say, ma'am, what are you asking? That the water is something that which we use at every point, at every, like it's like that any work can't be done without water? Exactly. As you can see here, that the first point, watering of garden. Exactly. When watering of garden. See, student, as we human beings require food or eatable so that we can grow up. So the same thing happened with the plant also. That plant, for the growth of the plant, they require water. So it is very important if you are having gardens and if you like to grow plants, so what you have to do is you have to water them time to time so that they can grow very well. So that is the important use of the water, that the watering of the garden. And if I can say, the second point I can write down here is the agriculture. Students, what happened now, for the process of the agriculture or for growing crops, we also require the water, that is for the irrigation process. So the water is important thing here again. Now you can see here washing hands. That means I can write down washing and cleaning both. Like I'm just writing down in one point only. Washing means like whether we are washing our hands, we are washing our clothes, washing our dishes, or cleaning our house, cleaning our bikes, scooters, or some like anything. So you can see washing and cleaning. All of these things require what? Water. Exactly. Bathing. For our bathing. Swimming. And we can see here that the laundry is also the same thing, like the washing of the clothes. So it could be the same thing, like in the washing and the cleaning, it we can consider it in that point only. And swimming is here, like swimming is also there, and in the water park. So we can see that so much of water is there. Cleaning dishes. And now the very important point about the water is that for the drinking purpose. So it is a very important thing for the drinking purpose. Why, students? Like why we require water, or we can say that like why the water is so essential for us, why it is like that. Why water is so essential for drinking? Like because student, our human body requires a lot of water, because the more content of our body is the water only. That is why student, to maintain that water level inside our body, the consumption of the water or the drinking of water is very important for us. Even the water helps us so much of function inside our body. So that's why student, water is used up each and every point. Like I have written very less point, you can add many points at like in this case. For the construction work, water is used up. And even the students, like I can't even imagine that where the water is not using, like in our bathroom, washrooms, we need water. So everywhere we need water. So we are having so much uses of water at each and every place. Okay, so these are the uses of water, students. Now, if we talk about reasons of water shortage, like why the water is getting short. Like even though that the water quantity, if we see that the water on the earth, it is present around 71%, we can say, or 72%, I think so. But what the thing, student, that the first we are having the sea water. Okay, we are having sea water, and one we are having fresh water. So student, what happened that the sea water, that means from the oceans and the sea, the water which we are getting, it is salty in nature. So we can't use this water for our domestic work. That is why student, we require this fresh water, and the amount of the fresh water is very less. That is why when we consume water so much, or we start consuming water without any requirement or without any use, so what will happen? There is the shortage of the water. So what could be the reasons for that, student? So first of all, we can see here that these are the reasons. These are the reasons, and what could be the you can say consequences of that water shortage. Consequences. Okay, so that's a student, we are going to find out first of all the reasons. So the reasons of the water shortage, first you can see here that the population increase. As we know this thing, student, that day by day that the population is increasing. So for the population is increasing, that means the water consumption is going to be increased. And is not only in the drinking way, you can say when the population is increasing, so we have to develop more houses, we have to make more offices, hospitals, and everywhere what we require? Water. So when the population is increasing, that means development is increasing, that is fine, but like development in what way? That it is also requiring the reduction of the water. So that's how population increase is one of the very important reason for the water shortage. Fine. Now second, we can see water mismanagement. Like mismanagement, what you can understand first, for this I can say that the polluted water, that people are polluting the water at a very high scale, that the industries and the factories, what they'll do, they just directly throw their garbage or their waste into the water, and that's how student water get polluted. Even though student, what happened, that if you are doing some work and you require only one bucket of water, so what happened, people generally use 3 to 4 buckets. So why you are using so much of water without any requirement? Like if you require only one bucket, so why you are using 3 to 4 or 5 to 6 bucket at that point? So that is all are the water management, student. And if I give you more example, because right now I'm having so many examples in my mind. Like if you're brushing your teeth and you turn on the tap, and it's like you are just brushing and the water is flowing in from the tap, so that's how water is getting wasted. Even though one day what I have noticed, that in my colony, one of the pipe, like the water pipe was leaking, and through that the water is getting, you can see that wasted. So I told like one of the, like we are having some kind of community here, so what they all like they do take care of the society. So I told them, so what they do, like even though when I complain for that thing, so after 2 to 3 days that pipe got repaired. But you can imagine like how much water has been wasted from it. So all of these things, student, comes under the category of the water mismanagement, that means we don't know how to manage the water. And if we are not managing the water properly, so that's how, student, we are going to face such problems in the future. Even though we are not getting water, it could be the condition that we have to go for the on the shops and we have to purchase the water. So that is the water mismanagement. Now if we see the third point, so it is the lacking development projects. For example, student, that okay, now we come to know that water shortage is there, but even the students, people are not making any kind of strategy or any projects, or they are not following any way so that we can overcome that shortage. So that's the main big reason that we can say that for the water shortage. Fourth, we can see a lacking community awareness. That what happened na, that yes, people know this thing that the water is getting reduced, but at a very common level, such people are not having general awareness that if the water is getting reduced, if you are not getting water, so in your future what kind of problems you are going to face. So that's a, student, these all are the consequences which we are going to discuss right now, that if you are not conserving water, if you are not preserving it, so what problem you can face in the future. So it's like fifth is drought. See, it could be the consequence, like when the water shortage is there, so it will result indirectly into the drought only. Exactly, student. Now coming to the consequences, that okay, we see that all these are the reasons, and we know this thing that the very main reason for the water shortage is only us, we human beings, that we don't think about the about that how we are going to manage if the water is not there for the future. And if water is not there, so how we are going to survive, not only us, even though plants and animals are also going to be suffer for this thing. So that's how, student, we have to think about it, or I can say we should think about it, or we can say that just start thinking about it from this point only. Fine. So now what could be the consequences of the water shortage? So first of all, it is the lacking potential for sustainable development. You know, students, what is sustainable development? Sustainable development is we can say something that when you are using any resource or anything which we are getting from nature, and we know this thing that if we consume them more and more, so maybe there could be the condition that this thing is going to be exhaust from the nature and the future generation is not going to use up. So that's a, student, we have to start consuming them in such a way that the future generation can also use it. So we call it as the sustainable development. So see, student, if the water is shortage here, so what happened that okay, we are now here, but what will happen when the future generation is coming? So what will happen that the water will be not there? So that's how they are going to manage all such things. So that's how there will be the lacking in the sustainable development. Fine. Second, rising water price. Now water price, as I told you, for example, like if any day comes, I hope it should not be there, that if the water shortage is a very like you can say now the water is not there and we have to go on shops and we have to purchase water. So can you imagine that it could be the worst condition for us? And even those students, when the shortage is there, so the price will be very high, and if the price are going to be very high, so you can imagine that how people are going to manage all such things. And not only about the purchasing price. For example, student, if the fresh water is not there, so now what the government is going to do, that they will collect some polluted water or any sea water, and they start just supplying it by using the processes for the purification of the water. And those purification process, students, will be very costly. If they are going to be so costly, so that how we are going to pay the water bills or something like that, because if the cost is increasing, so the bills are also going to be increased. So that means there will be the rise in the water price. So it could be a very worst condition, that because of us we have to pay the money for water, because God has gift us this water. Exactly, we human beings are not making water, but God has gifted us, but now we are not taking care of it. So that's why we have to see the circumstances in the future only. But if you want that you should not do such things, so definitely in future you are not going to face such problems. Okay, out migration, student, means that the people are going to migrate from one place to other place so that they can find out the water. And because of that, student, what could be the problems, that the people are getting, like there may be the conflict between the people. For example, in one area the water shortage is there, and in the another area water is like there, like it is also shortage, but it's like that it in that area the water is that much that they can survive, and the people are getting migrate to that place. So you can see now the bulk of the people is there, so how they are going to manage all such things. So what will happen, that in the second area now after some time there is also a water shortage. So that's how. Poverty, you can relate with the rising water price. For example, student, that if the price is going to be rise so high, so what will happen, that the people have to purchase water, because water is the basic necessity and we can't live without the water. And if we are going to purchase water at each and every point, so you can imagine that most of our salary is going to purchase for water only, and it could result in the poverty. Okay, so because we know this thing, student, that in a society, or we can say that in on we are having all type of people. Some are very rich, some are like medium, or some are very low. Okay, so that's a student, that all of us, how we are going to manage such thing. So that could be result of the poverty only. Now fifth point is tribal conflicts, student, you can see that the same thing, that if the people are going to migrate and they are not getting proper amount of water, so maybe there will be a conflict also. Exactly, so these all are the reasons of the water shortage, and these could be the consequences of the water shortage. Now you can think, if all of these are the reasons, so what should we do so that we can have water in the future and we can conserve the water. So just start thinking about it, and students, see, you don't have to think very hard for it. What you just have to do is, like, you have to keep some points in your mind, that when you are using a water, you have to use that water very carefully, very wisely. Like, you are turning the tap, so just turn off, like, you have done using it. So that's how, student, these small things can conserve water. Okay, so I think we have discussed so much about the water shortage, and now I guess, like, my students are going to follow all such points, and we can do something for our environment. Fine, students. Okay, now we are going to see the water cycle. See, we have seen what is the not what is the water exactly, but we have seen that what are the transfer, like how the solid into the liquid or liquid into the gases. So that's a student water cycle work in that form only. So we'll see that how it works, because I'm having one video for that, and I'm going to show you that video. But before that, student, what the thing is, I just want you to revise that ice to water, what? Ice to water, melting. Water to vapor, vaporization. Vapor to water, condensation. Water to ice, freezing. So all such points will be helpful in the water cycle. Okay, so now I'm going to show one video. So here's the video. And it's a quite funny video, so just observe everything, that what's going on exactly.
For today is water cycle. The sun heats up the water from oceans, lakes, and rivers, and water changes into water vapor by the process of evaporation.
So students, what the very first step is that the sun is acting as a source of heat and it is absorbing the water from the lakes, oceans and the seas in the form of the vapors. So the very first step is the evaporation. Now,
Plants also lose water in the form of water vapor from their leaves into the air by the process of transpiration. As the water vapor rises up into the air, it starts cooling down and forms tiny water droplets. These water droplets come together to form clouds. This process is called condensation. When the clouds start getting heavy and cannot hold the water droplets anymore, they fall back to the earth in the form of rain, hail, or snow. This process is called precipitation. Some of the water that falls on the earth seeps into the ground. This water is available to us in the form of groundwater. The remaining water falls back into oceans, lakes, rivers, and seas. This process is called collection. Then the sun starts heating up this water once again. This circulation of water is called water cycle.
so students, have you noticed that what is going on exactly? So, what the thing that the circulation of the water that we are getting rainfall and it is converting back into the like going back to the oceans and river, then again it is the rainfall. So how it is going on? So all such processes are involved in the water cycle. So first of all, it is the evaporation and the transpiration. So students, as I've told you, what is the vaporization process? So it could be considered as the evaporation only. So in the evaporation, student, what exactly happened that the water when it gets heat, or you can say on heating the water, so it converts into the vapors. Okay, so students, when the water is present into the oceans, lakes, or any other, like any source of the water, and the sun is there, so what will happen that the sun is giving it sun rays, and due to that, student, water is getting heated up, and when the water is getting heated up, so the water is getting transferred into the vapors, and those vapors are going to the atmosphere. Okay, so that is the evaporation. And what is the transpiration? Transpiration is also a kind of the evaporation, students, but it's just that in the transpiration there is the we can say there is the conversion of the water from the leaves of the plant. As you can see here that these are the leaves, so they are also containing some water, and when the sunlight is there, so the water is getting converted into the vapors, and that we called as the transpiration process. So the evaporation and the transpiration, both of them result into the formation of the water vapors, which are collecting in the like in the atmosphere. Okay, fine. Now when the vapors are going into the atmosphere, okay, so now vapors are there. Now, student, what happened that at the above layer or the atmosphere, the temperature is less. That means temperature is less. So when the temperature is less, that means that vapors are feeling cool. And when the vapors are feeling cool, so what will happen? They will again convert into the water droplets. Okay, and when they convert into the water droplets, students, so all of the water droplets combine together and they result into the formation of the cloud. And this is called as the condensation process. Fine, student, that means first of all vapors are forming. After the vapors formation, there is the formation of the cloud. Now, student, what happened when the clouds become very heavy? So they just burst out, and when they burst out, student, so there is the fall. We can say there is the rainfall, and how that the water that falls to the earth in any form, like any form, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, we called it as the precipitation. That means after the condensation, student, when the clouds become very heavy, so they just burst out, and after the burst out, student, there is the rainfall, or you can say the snow or sleet or hail is there. It depends upon the temperature of the region. Why, students? What happened that when cloud is there, okay, just take the example, this is the cloud, it is having small water droplets, and when it burst out, so there is the water droplets coming out from here. Exactly. So what happens, student, if I take one condition, for example, I'm taking Jammu and Kashmir, okay, where the Jammu and Kashmir, where the temperature is very low, like there so what happened when the temperature is very low, so these water droplets, they are getting freezing up. So when they are getting freezing up, that's why they result into the snowfall into such region. But if we talk about second reason, like when the where the temperature is less, for example, I can take Mumbai. Okay, so in Mumbai, students, what happened that the temperature is low. When the temperature is low as compared to the Jammu and Kashmir, so what will happen when the precipitation starts, student, so there will be the rainfall only. At that point there is no conversion of the snow because the temperature is less, so the water is not going to be freeze up, and that's how we get the rainfall. So you can see that the water which is falling to the earth in any forms, rain, snow, sleet or hail, we call it as the precipitation process. Fine, students. So what we have seen, that first the evaporation, then condensation, and then precipitation. Now when the precipitation is done, student, what happened that the water is falling over the earth, like water is falling on the earth, so there will be the Q2 condition, that the water is falling on the ground, or water is again falling over the oceans, or we can say seas or the lakes. Okay, so what will happen, student, when the water is falling in the oceans, lakes or these rivers, so that means water is getting collected again into it, and that is called as the collection. Okay, but when water is falling on the ground, so what will happen, that this water is absorbed by the soil, and through the pores of the soil water will flow down, and that's the, student, we get the groundwater, and this process is called as the infiltration process. Fine. So again, student, now if you observe that when water is here, that when after the precipitation water is getting back into the rivers and ocean, again there will be sun, and again the evaporation will take place, and again there is the condensation, then again precipitation, again collection. So that's how, student, water is circulating. So this is called as the water cycle. Okay, I hope you like you got the point about what is the water cycle. So now this is the infiltration, what I was telling you, that when the precipitation is there, like the raindrops are here, so they are falling on the ground, and from the soil they are moving towards the ground, and we are getting it in the form of the groundwater, and this process is called as the infiltration process. Infiltration is the process by which water on the ground surface enters the soil. Okay, so that's how, student, this is the whole water cycle. That first of all, it is the evaporation, that means the formation of the vapors from the rivers, lakes or oceans, or from any water source. Evaporation and transpiration. After that, student, what will happen, there will be the condensation, that means formation of the cloud. After that, there will be the burst out of the cloud, and there will be the precipitation. And after the precipitation, what will happen, that again there will be the collection of water is there, and when the water is getting collected into the rivers, ocean or lakes, so again there will be the evaporation. So that's how, student, water cycle is this, and it is this, and water cycle is called as the circulation of water. Fine, and that's how we are getting rainfall, clouds, and all. So this is the whole process about the water cycle. Fine. Okay. Oh, so that means we have covered up all of the topics which we have to discuss today. That means water we have done, then the uses of water, then what are the reasons of the water shortage, what could be the consequences, then we have seen that what is the water cycle and what are the processes involved in the water cycle. Fine. Now we are going to see some questions here. State for which of the following whether it is due to the evaporation or the condensation. So now we know this thing, that the evaporation means that the formation of the water into the vapors, and the condensation is the reverse of it, that is the vapors again back into the water. Okay, so the A statement, water drops appear on the outer surface of a glass containing cold water. Have you ever noticed that when the water is having cold water, so at the outer surface there is the water droplets, and in that case, student, what is happening, that the vapors converting into the water. So that's how it is the condensation process. Okay. If I talk about second, steam rising from the wet clothes while they are ironed. For example, student, you have to go school, and your shirt is not properly dried up. It is having some water in it. So what your mother can do, like she is ironing your clothes, so that the left amount, like the whatever the amount of the water present into it, it is going to be converted into the steam by the heating process. So what we are doing, we are converting that water into the vapor, and what that process is, evaporation. E for evaporation, C for condensation. Okay. Fog appearing on the cold winter morning. Have you ever noticed that in the winter morning there is the fog? So why it is there? Because student, in the winter morning the temperature is very less. So what happened that the water droplets which is present in the atmosphere, they just got freeze. So that's how the fog is there. So what is the process is going on? Condensation process. Blackboard dries up after wiping it. See what happened, you have washed up your blackboard and the water is not getting, but when you wipe it again, so what will happen, it is getting dry. That means the water is converting back into the vapor. So that's how it is the evaporation. Steam rising from a hot griddle when a water is sprinkled on it. For example, student, this is some, I can draw something. Okay, this is a pen and you are heating it. Okay, that means it is hot. But when you sprinkle some water droplets over it, these are the water droplets. Fine. Just try to understand. So what happens, student, when these water droplets are falling over some hot utensils, so what will happen? Those water droplets will absorb the heat and they will convert into the vapor. That means water is converting into the vapor form. So what is the process is evaporation. So that's a student, by observing whether the vapor is converting into the water or water is converting into the vapor, so we can conclude that whether the evaporation is going on or condensation is going on. Fine. So now we can check our answer. So yes, it is condensation, evaporation, condensation, evaporation, evaporation. Exactly. Okay, so that's a student. What you just have to do is you have to remember the processes, that what's the processes are going on. And I have told you all of the processes in the very starting of the class only. Like if I show you here, that here are the processes: ice melting to water, water boiling to vapors called vaporization, or you can say evaporation also, vapors converting into the water, condensation, water converting into the ice, freezing. Okay, so all such things are involved for the water, students. Fine. So what the thing is, okay, that means we have done with our session. We have completed all of the topics and we have discussed some question as well. Now what you have to do is you have to watch this session very carefully, and even those students, after watching this session, if you're having any question, any doubt is there, what you can do is you can put your question on the Ask IITian forum, like public forum or the private forum, so that you can get your answers from the expert side. And that's how, student, you are going to cover up this chapter, and we'll see the other part of this chapter in the next session. Fine. That means we are continuing this chapter in the next session. Till then, study more and keep learning from Ask IITians. Thank you.